In the summer of 2001, a woman named Sharon Watkins sat down and wrote a letter to her boss. She was a senior executive at one of the most powerful companies in America, and in that letter, she wrote 7 words that would change everything. I am incredibly nervous that we will implode. Her boss was Kenneth Lay, CEO of Enron Corporation. He never wrote back. 6 months later, 20,000 people lost their jobs, their health insurance, and their entire life savings in a single week. This is the story of how it happened. To understand how Enron collapsed, you first have to understand how big it actually was. By the year 2000, Enron was the 7th largest company in the entire United States, $111 billion in reported revenues. Offices in 40 countries, featured on the Fortune 500 list for 6 consecutive years. Fortune magazine named it America's most innovative company 5 years in a row. It was not a small scandal. This was not a regional bank or a startup that got too ambitious. This was one of the most respected, most celebrated corporations in American history. So how did it get there? Enron started in 1985 as a simple natural gas pipeline company in Houston, Texas. 2 smaller companies merged, Houston Natural Gas and Internord. Kenneth Lay became CEO and immediately had a vision that went far beyond pipelines. Lay wanted to transform Enron from a company that physically moved gas through pipes into a company that traded energy like a financial product. He wanted Enron to become the Wall Street of the energy world. In 1990, he hired a man named Jeffrey Skilling, a Harvard MBA and McKinsey consultant, to make that vision a reality. Skilling was different. He was aggressive, borderline obsessive, and he had an idea that would change the entire energy industry. He called it mark-to-market accounting. Here is what that means in simple terms. Traditional companies record revenue when they actually receive the money. You sign a deal, you deliver the product, you get paid. Then it goes on the books. Skilling convinced the SEC to allow Enron to do something different. The moment Enron signed a contract, even a 20-year contract, they could record the entire estimated future value of that contract as profit immediately on that same day. So, if Enron signed a 20-year energy deal worth $800 million, they could report $800 million in revenue right now, even if they hadn't delivered a single dollar's worth of energy yet. The system worked as long as the deals kept coming, and in the late 1990s, the deals kept coming. By 1997, Enron was expanding everywhere. Broadband, water utilities, weather derivatives, an actual trading market for bandwidth. They were moving faster than anyone could track. But underneath the growth, there was a serious problem. Many of Enron's new businesses were losing money, real money, billions of dollars. Because of mark-to-market accounting, Enron had already recorded the profits from contracts that would never actually generate those profits. The gap between what they reported and what they actually earned was growing every single quarter. And Jeffrey Skilling knew it, so he brought in a man named Andrew Fastow, Enron's chief financial officer, and gave him a specific job: hide it. Fastow was a financial architect, and what he built was one of the most complex fraudulent structures in corporate history. He created hundreds of shell companies, entities that existed only on paper, registered in offshore locations like the Cayman Islands. These companies had names like LJM Cayman, Raptor, and JEDI. The structure worked like this. When Enron had a failing asset, a business that was losing money and would hurt their stock price if it appeared on the books, they would transfer that asset to one of Fastow's shell companies. The shell company would essentially agree to absorb the loss. So on Enron's official financial statements, the loss simply disappeared. But here is the critical detail that made the whole thing fraudulent. Those shell companies had no independent money. They were funded largely by Enron's own stock, which meant if Enron's stock price fell, the shell companies would collapse, and all those hidden losses would come flooding back onto Enron's balance sheet all at once. It was a trap built on top of a trap, and Fastow was personally profiting from it. He collected over $30 million in management fees from the shell companies he was supposed to be managing on behalf of Enron, his own boss, stealing from his own company while hiding the evidence of that theft inside the same structure he was using to hide everything else. Meanwhile, the board of directors knew something unusual was happening. They had formally voted to waive Enron's own code of ethics to allow Fastow to manage these outside entities. Let that sink in. The board voted to suspend their ethics policy so their CFO could run companies that were secretly doing business with Enron, and they approved it. Not everyone was blind. In 2001, a Wall Street analyst named Chung Wu at UBS Payne Weber sent an internal email to clients recommending they sell Enron stock. He had looked at the numbers and something felt deeply wrong. Within hours of sending that email, he was fired. Enron executives called UBS directly and complained. Wu was terminated the same day. Around the same time, a short seller named Jim Chanos had been quietly studying Enron's financial filings for months. He could not make the numbers add up. The company reported massive profits profits but generated almost no cash. That combination is almost always a warning sign of fraud. Chano started shorting Enron stock, betting it would fall. Then, in August 2001, something unexpected happened. Jeffrey Skilling resigned as CEO after only 6 months in the role. He cited personal reasons. He sold 500,000 shares of Enron stock before leaving. That was when Sharon Watkins wrote her letter. She walked into Kenneth Lay's office and handed it to him personally. In the letter, she detailed the accounting fraud in clear, specific terms. She named Fasto's structures. She named the risks. She begged Lay to investigate before the entire company collapsed. Lay hired outside attorneys to look into her concerns. The attorneys were hired from the same law firm that had been helping Fasto structure his shell companies. The investigation concluded there was no problem. On October 16, 2001, Enron announced a $618 million third-quarter loss, the first public sign that something was seriously wrong. The stock began to slide. Then on October 22nd, the SEC announced it was opening a formal investigation. The stock fell further. On October 24th, Fasto was forced to resign as CFO. The dominoes were falling now, and nothing could stop them. Credit rating agencies began downgrading Enron's debt. Each downgrade triggered automatic repayment clauses in Fasto's shell company structures. As the stock price fell, the shell companies were collapsing, and all the debt Enron had hidden inside them was exploding back onto the official balance sheet. The losses that had been hidden for years were now appearing all at once. Enron needed a buyer. Their only hope was a merger with their competitor, Dynegy. Negotiations went on for weeks. On November 28, 2001, Dynegy walked away. Enron stock closed that day at 26 cents per share. On December 2, 2001, Enron filed for bankruptcy. At the time, it was the largest corporate bankruptcy in American history. Wall Street analysts lost money. Investors lost money. Hedge funds lost money. But the people who lost everything were the ones who had nothing to do with any of this. Enron's employees. Enron had encouraged and in many divisions essentially required employees to hold their entire retirement savings in Enron stock through the company's 401k plan. When the collapse started and employees tried to sell their stock to protect themselves, they discovered the accounts had been frozen. Enron was in the middle of switching retirement plan administrators, and during that transition, employees were locked out of their own accounts. Locked out while the stock fell from $90 to 26 cents. Some employees who had spent 20 or 30 years at Enron building what they believed was a secure retirement lost everything. Completely. Not most of it, all of it. An Enron employee named Charles Presswood had worked for the company for 33 years. He had $1.3 million saved in Enron stock. By the time the accounts were unlocked, he had $13,000 left. He was 63 years old. He was not an executive. He was not involved in the fraud. He showed up to work every day for 3 decades and trusted that his company was telling him the truth. He testified before Congress. He told them he had to go back to work. There were thousands of stories exactly like his. The trials took years. Andrew Fasto pleaded guilty to fraud and conspiracy charges in 2004. He cooperated with prosecutors and received a 6-year prison sentence. He served his time and was released in 2011. Jeffrey Skilling was convicted on 19 counts of fraud and conspiracy in 2006. He was sentenced to 24 years in prison, later reduced to 14 years after appeals. He was released in 2019. Kenneth Lay was convicted on all 6 counts against him in 2006, but he never went to prison. He died of a heart attack in July 2006, just 3 months after the verdict, before he was sentenced. Because his conviction had not been finalized at the time of his death, it was legally vacated. Technically, Kenneth Lay died without a criminal conviction on his record. Arthur Andersen, Enron's accounting firm, one of the 5 largest in the entire world, was convicted of obstruction of justice for shredding thousands of Enron documents after the investigation began. The conviction destroyed the firm. 85,000 employees lost their jobs. Arthur Andersen ceased to exist. The Enron collapse forced the U.S. government to act. In 2002, Congress passed the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, one of the most significant pieces of financial reform legislation in American history. It required CEOs and CFOs to personally certify the accuracy of financial statements. If those statements were fraudulent, the executives were personally liable. Criminal liability, not just fines, prison. It created new requirements for independent auditing. It increased penalties for document destruction. It established new protections for corporate whistleblowers. Sharon Watkins, the woman who wrote the letter, was named one of Time magazine's Persons of the Year in 2002, alongside 2 other major corporate whistleblowers from that era. She had done everything right. She had gone through proper channels. She had put her concerns in writing. She had handed them directly to the CEO. The system failed anyway. Closing. Here is what Enron actually teaches us. Not about accounting, not about energy markets, not about financial regulation. It teaches us about belief. Every journalist who praised Enron believed. Every analyst who gave it a buy rating believed. Every board member who waived the ethics policy believed. Every employee who put their entire retirement into company stock believed. They believed because the story was convincing, because the numbers looked right, because everybody else believed too. The most dangerous frauds in history are never the ones that look suspicious from the outside. They are the ones that look like success. Kenneth Lay told his employees to keep buying stock right up until the end. He told them the company was strong. He told them the fundamentals were solid while he was selling his own shares. Enron was not just a fraud. It was a masterclass in how power, complexity, and belief can combine to hide the truth from everyone, including sometimes the people creating the lie. The company is gone. The executives served their time, but the employees who lost everything, they are still living with it. That is the real legacy of Enron.